Shaun Latavius Murphy. Shaun, congratulations.
That's not my middle name.
Oh, it isn't?
No, it's Michael.
Shaun Michael. Shaun, what's a good actor? What's like a Michael
Well, there's Chad Michael Murray.
Chad Michael Murray. Yeah. Shaun Michael Murphy. Oh, that's got a nice ring to it.
That does kind of have a nice ring to
Shaun
it.
Michael Murphy.
Chad Michael Murray was born in Buffalo, I believe.
Oh, really? Two hotties
Yeah.
born in the same
I was
town.
just going to say that there's a lot of hot people born there. Kyle Chandler born there.
Yeah. Kyle Turner.
Kyle Turner.
Yeah.
I
Do
mean,
you think Kyle will be listening to this to know that he was mentioned? Do you think if he is listening because you're on it, he's turned it off by now, knowing he's heard his name and it's now off?
probably.
He's like, well, I got what I needed out of this. They mentioned me.
They called me hot.
And they called me hot. And I'm out. You are just a couple days past the release of your new album, Neil, and your special, which is on your YouTube channel. And I know you put a lot of.
It's done amazing. Millions of views, which is was crazy to me.
Couple days, yeah. But it's very funny, and I'm sure people will watch it more and more and more. And I can only imagine that the spike from this podcast will probably almost ruin your life. How many people are going to be reaching out to you after this? But be ready for it.
Well, I've done the show before, and the amount of people. Oh my gosh, Shaun from Hell Gigs. Oh my God, we loved your Hell Gigs. When are you going back on Hell Gigs? And I'm just like, that's why I had to come back.
It's like, hey, listen, and when they'll have me, I'm trying to get in there. It's hard. It's hard. You just off this release and these shows that you did to have the recording and the video and stuff. And I just posed this question to another guest, and I really like it. It may get into the rotation. I'm going to work it out on you. Can you give me like 3 to 5 things that in your mind, and you're a comedy snob, that make for a really bad comedy show? Like if you have a few of these things, what 3 to 5 things that really make for a bad night?
Okay. Right off the bat, I say too big of a room. We've done those kind of like not necessarily VFW posts, but like charity type gigs where they're in like a ballroom, and you just kind of know you're like already there's a 75% chance this is going to be bad. Because even if people are paying attention, even if they knew comedy was happening, there's just the room's too big. People can separate in their own groups. Right. So room size is 1. I would say 2 is, do people know comedy is going to happen? That's a telltale sign. Right. I think I'm too old for this. Yeah. I'm too old for that now, for the surprise show.
You're too old in the sense of like if you walked into a venue and they were like, these people don't know comedy is going to happen, you'd be like, well, I'm going to leave. You would leave?
I mean, not if I drove 3 hours but like I don't think I could do those anymore, because you're giving people, the idea of comedy is you're supposed to give people a good time, and I feel like in that instance, you're giving the chance of giving more people a bad time is higher. Guy just,
it's uncertain. I mean, without a doubt, people will have a bad time if they're surprised by comedy.
Some guy just shoveled shit for 6 hours. He's trying to take his wife to a nice dinner. And then I come in and I'm like, dildos are weird. And he's like, I'm just trying to enjoy my life. And like, it just, you can't have that.
You know what I think the problem is with these kind of shows, it's actually not a nice dinner. What it usually is like a bar restaurant where it's like middle class people, and this is the best that they can do for a Friday night. And and you're right, they usually work My dog just dropped a bone. They usually work manual labor or something like that. And they're like, all right, I'll have the chicken Italiano, even though it's not going to be very good. It's basically chicken parm, but they put peppers on it. And my wife is here, and it's like, I'll have the domestic, because the domestics are $3 for $3 for a 16-ounce.
It's someone who's just barely hanging on, and they're like, I need I just need things to go right tonight, and then some idiot comes on and it just ruins the whole night.
It is always that, like, I'm just imagining, because we've done these so many times. I feel like just someone in like a Carhartt jacket looking up from a plate of like pasta and red sauce and just looking at you like while you're talking and just like sort of shaking their head and going back to their food. Just like, I'll just tune this out like I tune everything else out in my life. It's shocking more comedians don't get killed at these things.
Yeah.
Like that you don't just get like a dad that has that's at the end of his rope and snaps and just kills a comic who's like, what's up, sir? What, you don't like Ubers? You never Ubered, huh, Grandpa? You're not Ubering around? Like, making, oh, nice car. What do you work for a living? Huh? Just some guy gets up with a box cutter and it is shocking. Okay, so surprise comedies number 2.
Surprise comedy. Oh, man, I had a third one and we got so good into surprise comedy. Length is a big one for me. I think there's never any scenario where a show should be at most an hour 45. I mean, there are exceptions if like you're doing a show and Chappelle walks in or something like, but like especially if it's all like unknown comics on maybe a showcase format type thing, should be like around 90 minutes.
Right. Yeah. There are no I mean, even like known comics, I feel like comics that I love, I'm like, after an hour and a half, I'm like, I get the idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what are you gonna say at hour 40 I'm like, I'm glad I stayed that extra 10 minutes, because they were really saving that for the end. I mean, yeah, that's some of these marathon shows, where like they stack like, and it's not necessarily a comic doing a long set. It's just so many comics doing like 10-minute sets. You know what I mean? Where it's like you have 18 comics on the lineup, and how many guest spots? Like there's 7 guest spots. Yeah. All right. So the length of a show. Give me one more.
God, I mean, your dog's building a shed over there in the corner.
I'm sorry, my dog is dropping. I gave him a bone. I hopefully it doesn't pick up. I don't think it'll pick up. I think people will, when they listen to this, they'll go, I don't know what they're talking about.
I don't know. Maybe some people with sharp ears, they picture your little dog with a little hammer, building a little thing in the corner, just like just like, oh, you're podcasting? Sorry, I gotta get this work done.
He's building himself like his own little house. He's just little tool belt on. It's just sorry, Dad, but these floorboards aren't gonna seal themselves. All right.
That's how little respect people have for comedy. Even in your comedy podcast, your own dog is just like, it's like, listen, I gotta work this afternoon. I'm sorry.
Hey, sorry, I'm not some meme maker like you. I gotta make a living, for God's sake. All right, so
did you have any good ones told to you so far, or any ones that you?
So yeah, I mean, about? I would, I know what you're saying. I would say, the surprise one is really big, and I feel like, sort of what can lead to a really bad show is that just like when I guess this falls under all of them, but when the venue, like doesn't know how to, like, the incompetency of a venue. You know what I mean?
Like not policing the room properly.
Not policing the room, not seating the room properly. Sort of the idea that all you need is a microphone and maybe a stage and you can do comedy. You know, like the naivete of some of these venues, not necessarily comedy clubs, but like, you know, these one night venues that are like, what's wrong? Why can't you do a show here? And you're like, well, we can technically on paper, we can do a show here, but like, it won't be fun. No one will have fun. How many times do you think you've gone to a comedy show and you've left, or the audience has left, and you go, well, that wasn't fun. That wasn't fun for definitely me and probably not you.
I'd like to think not terribly often, because either the strength of the acts collectively pull out at least an average show, or there's something. I've definitely been at shows where I'm like, this could be a stinker, and then maybe like, you know, someone goes up, saves the show, something like that happens. But the fact that it happens at all is a testament to bad comedians and bad people putting on shows.
Yes, that's also, I think, another thing is just you have to say it. What makes a bad show? Just really bad comedians.
Yes.
Bad
because even if
producers.
everything's going against you, people, once you've been doing it long enough, that's part of the thing. You laugh at how shitty this thing is. Can you believe this? How long? What is this? How long do you want me to go? Like that becomes part of the funniness in a way.
Right. And you know, you and I probably both know at least a handful of these small town headliners. And I don't mean that condescendingly, but like these Pittsburgh and Buffalo and Columbus, Cincinnati, these Rust Belt sort of road dogs that go and do these rooms every weekend, these banquet halls and these Italian restaurants, whatever. And, you know, I would say 50% of comics wouldn't be able to do it. And they go up there and they destroy. And they destroy so hard. And you're like, no one even knows you. And you're just killing, you know? And so
as I've gotten older, I've gotten, it's like everything. Like I have some respect for all types of comedy, even ones that don't hit with me. Because there's a thing of like, well, can I or can most comics go into this room and kill for 45 minutes? Right. That is something. And then, of course, there's other part of me that's like, he is doing a Casey Kasem impression.
Right. Yeah. Like, he's doing a joke about Gilligan's Island, a show that hasn't been on in, I don't know, 40 years. You know? Yeah. He's like, so why does the skipper, I never see him skip. I never see the skipper skip. That's a killer joke.
Yeah, to stop doing acts from your first hour.
From Hello, It's Me. Actually, it's just a review of all the old. It's like MASH. I talk about MASH. I talk about All in the Family.
While we were talking about kind of no-nos for comedy shows, this brought up a story in my brain and this is one of those classic ones where it's really kind of no one's fault, but I'm doing one of these kind of banquet type shows. This was like maybe 5 years ago. And I think I was hosting it. I think I was in town with a buddy. We put together a couple gigs and he's like, just come host this thing. It's only like 10 minutes, but the like pays well. There'll be a bunch of people there. And I'm just trying to, you know, give context. I swear I don't host all shows I do, you know.
Right. Yeah. But so anyway, it's like I'm like a house MC now, you know.
So I remember the woman who kind of organized the thing comes up to me and she's like, I'm gonna go up there, I'm gonna, you know, thank the sponsor, you know, kind of like I'm gonna do a bunch of housekeeping.
Right.
And then I'm going to bring you up. And I was like, oh, okay. Like how long you think you're going to be up there? And she's like, well, I got a lot of kind of, you know, I got this whole piece of paper I got to get through. So I'll probably be like, you know, like 15 minutes or something like that. And I was like 15 minutes. I'm like, all right, that's, you got a lot to get through. I get it. And it was classic.
I got like front and back here. Yeah. I don't know. It's not single spaced. You know.
And it was classic thing of like, you know, nothing against this woman, but she just didn't know. It was like a person who's never been on stage before. So in her mind, she's like, well, if I read all this stuff, this would take like 15 minutes probably. And I was like, all right, so like she goes on stage. I literally hear her say like, hey everyone, thanks for coming out. And and I go, I should go to the bathroom before I go on. So I like walk around the corner to the bathroom, and she's like, you guys ready to get the show started? I was like, you've been up there for 40 seconds. Like she got through all she needed to say in under 1 minute.
Were you in the bathroom? Did you?
I was like, I was like the door shut. I was like, oh, I guess I gotta go. I'd say, because like she started the show early because she's like, well, I got to do 15 minutes of credits. So by the time I'm done with these credits, everyone will be seated and paying attention. And right. So, when I went up, it was like people were still sitting down, just because, she timed it wrong.
Right. Yeah. And that is so true. It is 100% just somebody that has no idea how how like time works on stage.
Yeah.
Just like, well, how long did it take me to write? You know what I mean? Like half a day, Yeah, that's so funny. Now my dog is barking. Hey, come here. It's just fine. Well, this will all be out.
This all has to stay in, I think.
This is all staying. This goes from, we hit record and it goes from here to print. We read nothing back. We listen to nothing on this show. The team, they don't have time for it. They're very busy. The team, yeah. Yeah. That's what actually my dog, Elmer, was building a new podcast studio for me. He's just building. The problem is that it's all dog size, so it's very tiny. Yeah.
I mean, if you interviewed dogs, the numbers would go way up.
If I had dogs talk about their worst jobs, their worst days, dogs just come on. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I woke up and then my owners were gone for what seemed like 5 years. Then they came back and I forgot that they existed, but I was so happy that they were back. And that's pretty much it. I fell asleep.
And I peed everywhere.
Yeah, I peed a ton. I don't know if you've ever eaten the leg of an armchair. It's all right, all right, so the lady bringing you on stage right away, and then so there, I mean, I'd assume you're a veteran enough comic where you just go up there and you're like, okay, but yeah. I'd have to think that could shake a lot of people. Like, why? I don't have a set list ready. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. People who aren't at like, more rookie comics, people who haven't been doing that. Like that might be, like I have so segues maybe nicely into a story. I've been on before. I told my two banger stories.
2 great stories, which I highly urge anyone listening to this that hasn't to go listen to the first episode you were on, because some of the wildest, I mean, and it's so funny. I mean, I'm so appreciative of anybody that comes on and does this podcast, but like, it's always people from like that started in similar roots, like you and Kyle, and I think of like Ray and like Donnelly, and people like that all have these, they get into these shows, where you're basically performing for like the worst group of people. And I don't know what it is. Like, people have great stories of big things that go horribly wrong, but there is just like a common factor between a lot of these people. Like, I don't know if it's where they come up or it's the town they're from or the sort of the area they're in, that they find themselves in these ridiculous situations,
Yeah. And I had, we were talking about in the first episode how the thing that scares you the most when you're early on is kind of performing for different types of people. Because right. you're from a place and you're like, well, I know how to make, my friends laugh. But then you get like, oh, these are older people, these are religious people, et cetera, et cetera. And you're kind of like, you become like in your head, you don't know how to make your humor more universal yet, et cetera. So this is a good example. I was like, now, just as my first 2 stories and the first time I was here, now I think this show would be like fun. But at the time, a handful of years in comedy, and my friend was headlining at Syracuse University. Okay. And he's like, hey, can you come feature?
What
and
time is the show?
Regular time,
Oh, it's
nighttime
in the
show.
evening. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well, that's
nighttime
pretty
show.
good. That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Well, here's the thing: is he is Indian, right?
Right.
So what I didn't know, and he didn't know this either, and he was like laughing about it when I got there. It was like an Indian like appreciation night.
Right.
So it was like the like Indian Student Activity Council kind of got together and was like, hey, we're gonna bring this Indian comic in to entertain
Oh my God.
to to entertain, and it was like families were in. It was like 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 whatever, like family weekend, you know. So they're like, well, we'll have like you know, an Indian night, and we'll bring this Indian comic in. And I was the opener on the show, and he was kind of like joking. He's like, I didn't know this. I just thought it was a gig. Like I didn't know this is why I was here. And so I I remember like bobbing, but in the sense of like, now I could have played with it a bit more. Whereas like then I walked out and I was like the only white person in the room, and it was a thing of like, you know, this is like Indian Appreciation Night. Why are you
Right.
here?
Right. Right.
There's no
Yeah.
reason you should be here. And I kind of like, you know, if I was doing it now, I'd almost be like, I don't know why I'm here either. Like, I'm to be
Right.
honest with, like, it's a little weird. There's probably be another Indian person up here.
People are checking their programs like Shaun Murphy. What the?
But like at that time, I was just so like, you know, I just did the time to confuse
Right.
silence,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
then left.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because you just in your head, it's probably like silence is better than a worst scenario, which is them talking to me. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Or them calling it out before I say it. You know,
Mhm.
and you feel like you don't have the tools to address the big Irish elephant in the room. You know,
Which by the way, the guy I opened for doesn't really do comedy anymore. Mark Saldana, funny guy. You should have him if you want him on the pod. He's had great stories. I remember. I don't think he minds me telling this, but I think he famously got into Just for Laughs by pretending to be his own agent.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so he's a lot
That's
of
great.
like crazy stories. And I remember, I'm gonna tell one of his kind of like hell gig stories, only because it's a story he never remembers, but I always think is so funny. Is he was doing this room in Buffalo, decent room, you know, small room, kind of like a C-level room. And I
Yeah.
remember he's headlining. I think I was opening up for him. He's headlining, and he was at the point kind of like right before he more or less quit, where he's like, I'm kind of done with comedy. You know, I'm here for the money. I could do the job, but let's get in and out. So he closes. He does his closer, and he's almost like walking off stage, and like the manager comes in. He's like, whoa, you got 10 more minutes. 10 more 10 more minutes. So he comes back. He goes, 10 more minutes, huh? He's like, all right. And then he's kind of like, he's like, I'm gonna do the 10 more minutes, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it's not gonna be as good as what just happened. He's like, I already did the big closer. He's like, this would be if Aerosmith played Dream On and then came back out and played Eat the Rich. And everyone's like, oh, this is a weird order, huh?
Oh my God. So were you with him?
Yeah, I was at that show, and I was
So how
dying
did
the
it
whole
go?
time.
How did the 10 minutes go?
You know, it's because of, again, which is a lot of these stories, it's like of him addressing it.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it went a lot better than if he just, because then like even when some stuff he didn't do that as well as other stuff, he could just kind of be like, I told you this was gonna happen, like, and he could still kind of keep the momentum going.
Yeah, you could still call back to the thing that caused this, you know,
Yeah.
and save it a little bit. Oh my God. And that's such a pro move, you know, just to like handle that situation like fine. And it's like you're desensitized at that point in your career. We're like, I'm not gonna fight you over the 10 minutes. I'm gonna just do it because it'll feel like nothing. You know, I'm just I'm so desensitized to any feeling of like shame, you know, that I might as well just go up there and do it.
Well, that's always the thing I remember. Like, the good thing of hell gigs is I feel like it desensitizes you in a good way.
Yes, right. Yeah.
You know, like I remember like even in little things of like when I was dating, I remember this one time I went on a date with someone and I like went in to kiss her and this guy like went in between us. Like he was like getting to the subway and he somehow like went in between the kiss. And it was
Did
like
you
this
kiss the guy? Did you accidentally kiss the
no,
guy?
no, but it was close. And it was like she was like, "Oh my god, it's so awkward." And I was like, it's not awkward at all. Like I've been through so like, you know, I've had so many heckles at this point and just bombing in front of strangers for so much that I'm like, this is what regular people think is like awkward, and this doesn't even register for me.
Right. Yeah. I do find that as well in my own life is like just situations where you go, I've done so much worse. Things have been so much worse than what they are right now. And it's not even that like, but you're not helpful. I feel like in those situations, like, I guess it's good because, you know, oh, it's no big deal. But I personally have found in other situations in my life where things come up and they're weird or they're uncomfortable, I'm not helpful. I just don't care. Like I'll just sit there and be like completely stone faced. And other people are like, I will offer no assistance, but I just won't let it bother me. You know what I mean? Like, because I've just been, I feel like it's like, yeah, I've played worse rooms than this, you know, like, like I just feel like I've definitely been in more awkward situations, you know. Um, sometimes you can get heckled and it can go well, you know what I mean? And you had a video recently sort of take off of what seemed to be like a heckle, but it was supportive, which is really like the perfect crime. You know, I always think that like
Yeah.
a supportive heckler is like if someone comes in like, what? Like I'm just having fun. I'm just laughing too loud. Is that what I'm doing? I'm cheering too hard, you know? But as a comic, you're like you're ruining it. You're like the Joker. You know what I mean? You just want to watch the show burn, you know? But you just had a recent encounter at the cellar with a very supportive audience that got a little rowdy.
Yeah, it was fun because it was a thing where I was like, oh, I started dating someone recently, and you know, I do some self-deprecation, so people started like clapping, and then I think as a group they were like, oh, this is funny how much we're clapping. Let's clap more, and it became like a joke, like a parody of an audience clapping, where it lasted so long, and I was like, this is like it's like half nice and half kind of mean. like it just rides the line perfectly. And then there was a moment maybe like a couple minutes later where I was like, yeah, and you know, we're having regular sex, and they're like, what? They're like, we get to do the sequel. And like they went even crazier. And it was like, it was yeah, the perfect line of like funny, but like I got to play it like it was a little mean. And I'm, you know, like it was just so like some guy in the as he's cheering goes like, "Let's go!" like like an unreal reaction to a stranger saying they have sex.
It's a real mob mentality. You know what I mean? It's like, so a couple people start clapping, and the next thing you know, I don't know who started this, but the whole crowd is just going crazy. You know, it's part of the reason I think comedy works in such tight spaces, but it can really get carried away. You know, because if a few people just start really losing it, everyone's like, well, that guy's screaming. Like I might as well scream too. It's one of those things where you like, I think about comics is like crowd control, you know what I mean? And like we have to do it a lot. We have to do it without even like knowing we have to do it. But like then you see on the news like when there's like a riot, it's like could we like we couldn't settle that down, you know what I mean? Like would you imagine a comic just be like, hey, come on, you know, we're trying to have a lot of people paid to be here. A lot of people paid to have a good night. This guy got a babysitter. You gonna ruin it for him? And it just like I think about like, yeah, we think we just toe the line. Like at any point, any comedy show could really turn into like a group of people like getting violent and trying to hurt somebody, and it doesn't. And I don't know. It's just wild to me that like that's our job to like control that audience, you know, like that's worst case scenario, is that we whip them up into such a frenzy where they destroy the comedy club or something, you know.
Yeah, right. How much you pay for those chicken fingers? It's too much. We riot.
That might be how I quit comedy. Like when I'm ready to like set off into the sunset, like
you go to your least favorite room and you just start a riot.
And instead of doing my act, I just read how much they're paying for their items that they're selling and how much they're selling them for. Like I'm just reading the profit margins. It's like,
yeah,
okay, they paid $8.75 for 100 pack of chicken strips and they're being sold for $13.75. Okay, like you just go, all right, it's $18 for a Miller Lite. You do get the souvenir glass. And just go through the whole thing and just start a riot and just walk out. You know, that would be such a fun thing to do. You know?
Manager gives me $100 a show and is mad about it. And this is his annual income.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. This is right. Yeah, exactly. What do you think have you ever had a show get physically out of hand?
No, I'm trying to think if I have. I don't think I have. Have you?
Yeah. I've had some people. I had someone like kind of like get up like they were gonna get on stage, and then they ended up mooning me, and then somebody in the audience had to remove them. Like it was one of the, again, what's something that makes a bad show. This was a venue where the bar was in the showroom, so people were just being overserved the whole night and had to get up to go to the bar, and then they come back down, and then not pleasing the room. Like I was hosting the show, but I don't host a lot, and I like rarely host. It was for a friend.
Me and you, rare hosts.
I was up there for like, I'm not kidding, like 30 seconds, and the guy like starts like repeating words that I'm saying. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I had an interview in an insurance company. He's like, insurance company. I'm like, okay. You know, I'm like, this guy, he's listening to the show on a delay or something like that. He's like, a delay. And I'm like, here we go. And so for 25 minutes, I spent going back and forth with him until I was like, you have to leave. I was like, you just have to go. Like, you can't stay here. I was like, can we kick him out? And like the bartenders, the sound guy, the door guys just looking at me. And then eventually it was actually a comic. It was in Pittsburgh. It was a comic he was like did some open mics and stuff, but he was just there watching the show, and he threw the guy out. He got up. He was like, and it shows that if you do anything with confidence, people will believe you. You know, like this, he just gets up. He's like, dude, you got to go. He's like, are you serious? He's like, you got to go right now. And his wife's like, he's got to leave. He's like, you both out of here. And they just leave. And then the guy comes back and sits down in the audience. Like it was crazy. But yeah, I've had people not want to fight me, but I've definitely been on shows where people like I was on a show with Ray where a fight broke out. A fight broke out at the end of the show, and it went into the lobby of the hotel we were performing in. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why people are so violent.
I do remember being on a show in Rochester, and the comic before me had what I remember being kind of like an offensive joke, and you could tell it just really hit home with this guy, and he started kind of heckling him. And then I went on stage and I was doing kind of well, and then halfway through my set I kind of just ripped into him a little bit, just kind of like the classic of like, you know, you're not brave for yelling shit into the dark. Like, at least we do this, you know. If you want to do this, then fucking bomb at an open mic for 10 years like the rest of us, and, you know, put in your time. And probably it worked, but I was like, it was one of those things where I'm like, I think that guy was just having a bad reaction to one joke. And,
right, yeah.
But I remember when the show ended, this made me feel like really bad. The guy went on stage and started trying to tell jokes.
So he took your advice.
He essentially took my advice, was like, I'll show you that and the mic was off. So he's, you know, and the lights were off. So he's just most of the people had filed out, and he's just, and yo, hereby, and he's just like kind of like, and I'm like, oh my God, I broke this guy for the night.
I remember having someone come up to me during a show. This happens a lot, but that's never happened where someone comes up to me before the show and they go, hey, like, can you like work my table into the show?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And they're like, no, but I'm like, no. And then after, of course, they heckle. And then, but I hate it too, because what didn't help was that this venue, it was essentially a pizza restaurant. The waiter that was serving them came over, was like, I just brought them another round of shots. They're going to be fun. Like, you're going to want to like interact with them. Like, oh my God, like nobody gets what's going on. Like, it's the call is coming from inside, It's one of those things where you're like, even the venue is not aware that this is a bad idea. And of course,
can you give me an email to who books that pizza restaurant?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it again. And what's so funny? It's one of those clubs where when you leave, you go, I'm never doing this club again. I'll never do this. It's not worth it. And 6 months go by, you're like, I should probably send my avails.
I should see if there's any openings at Gino's.
Yeah, I mean, I might as well. Like all it takes is like, and I know if I go back to that club, I'll have the same experience because it's in a place where it's like notoriously rowdy, a lot of drinking, a lot of bachelor and bachelorette parties. It's in like a very party area.
Oh, that's, you know what? That's the thing I was going to say earlier. A thing that often indicates a bad show. Bachelor parties, I think, are now more well-behaved than ever. They could still cause a problem, but I think after 30 years of people laying into them, a lot of them have kind of learned the lesson. Yeah. But here's the thing that's worse than ever: office parties.
Oh, wow. That's good. That's
so like when you have a group, I think an indication, not necessarily of a bad show, but a show you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to do so much work on the show, is when you hear they're like, we have a table of like 40 from an office, and they're all sitting together, they make up most of the show. I'm like, this is going to be, they're going to want to talk. They're going to talk to each other. They're going to want to talk to me. They're going to want me to talk to them. That causes a whole crater in the middle of the show.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it's also a thing too. It's a thing where like a bachelorette party, like there's a, like they're around their friends. It's a party atmosphere, but there's something about an office party where it's like they have to be so contained when they're in the office that this is the chance to show everybody how fun they are.
Yeah.
Their wilder side. It's like a spring break, where it's like this, we're really going to cut loose tonight. Yeah. And we're all going to split a couple of Nacho Grandes, and we're going to get a bucket of domestic beers. When you see a bucket of beers at a comedy club hit a table, it's like, dear God, what is it's like before the show even starts, like there's nothing worse than before the show starts. It's like 20 minutes, people are eating, and you just see like a bucket of beers hit a table. You're like, there's 6 beers in there. You're just like, there's 3 people. That's 2 beers. You're probably going to get another bucket. By the time I get on stage, they're each probably going to have like 5 or 6 beers. You're just like, oh, this is a problem. This is a future problem that I just totally see coming. Do you do that anymore? Do you even like worry about looking at the audience? You just like, well, I don't care, whatever.
No, because I think I'm so wrong. There's so many times like my girlfriend will tell me, like, there's so many times I text her, I'm like,
you have a girlfriend?
Like, yeah.
Whoa, nice, dude. Let's go.
There's so many times I'll text her and I'll be like, this is gonna be bad, and then like an hour, 2 hours later, I'm like, that was pretty good, and she's like, that's every time you do. She's just like, I don't know, this is gonna be pretty, because like you either just see like an earlier comic not do well, or you just kind of look at them like, oh, they're a little older, they're a little drunk, and a lot of times, even if all those things are true, you still know how to do those type of rooms now.
Right, exactly. And it's like, again, you've done worse. At the end of the night, you've had worse rooms, and you're gonna have worse shows. So it's like this will just chalk it up as like another fine show. Yeah. Maybe even good. Shaun Michael Murphy. I appreciate you coming on here today and taking time. Your new special and album, Neil, is out. Where is it out? Tell people where they can find it.
Well, the audio is available anywhere people get their audios,
Right.
but the video is on YouTube.
And what's that
It,
cost? Like a couple $100 to watch?
Colin, you're not going to believe this.
Why?
You're yeah. Tell your dog to stop building his shed for a second, because he's going to want to hear this. He's going to want to hear this
Elmer,
information.
listen up, buddy. Listen up, Elmer. Yeah.
Okay, just for those of you not watching the video, he just threw a cigarette to the side.
He just took the Newport cigarette out of his mouth. He stomped it under his paw, and he's coming over here. His tool bell is clinking.
You're gonna want to hear this, Elmer. On YouTube, special, free to watch, 50+ minutes, a lot of comedy. Been working on it a while. I think it's pretty good, and I think you're gonna like it. You're gonna like it. Your friend's gonna like it. Your dog / handyman is gonna like it.
Right, yeah.
Everyone in your life, I think, will enjoy the special.
Everyone in my life specifically,
yes.
Or the listener's life.
Well, both.
Oh, okay, good. Well, that's good, because everybody listening to this is in my life specifically, so that works perfectly. Well, I got to watch so many of the early rounds of it, and it really is a great special, and it's so funny, and I appreciate you coming on. And tell people where they can find you on like social media.
I'm on the social media. I am Shaun Murphy. Instagram, Twitter,
yes.
Facebook, not TikTok. I'm too old. I can't do it. I don't know how to dance. I'm sorry. It's too much for me.
Hit the Quan real quick one time for the kids. Hit the Quan real quick. Why don't you drop a wow or something?
And I have a Bills podcast. If you have any Bills listeners in the hunt.
Yes, on the same network, the Helium Podcast Network.
That's right.
Yeah. So when you're done with this, you can stay on the same channel and just tune in.
Yep. Just stay on the same channel. Listen to all those good podcasts over there. And we got Elmer has his handyman podcast coming out. That's going to be a good one.
Called My Dogs Are Killing Me.
Pretty good.
Dog days.
So listen to all those, and please watch that special.
For the love of God, watch the special.
Just watch it, but throw it on when you're going to bed. I don't care. Just get those views up. Get that. Make me look like a goddamn professional.
Do you know how many times I've like turned my album on Pandora or on YouTube and just turn my phone all the way down and just walk away I just walk away and I just let it run.
Yeah.
Just let it run. And I don't even want to hear my own voice.
You put it just low enough so the dog can hear it.
Right. To keep him company. Yeah. Something to work along to. Yeah. While he's working at his little wood shop over there. when I will say it was annoying when he started the cross saw. What do they call those things? The jigsaw. That was obnoxious. When he fired that up. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not going to edit any of this, huh? That stays.
I don't think it should be. Why do you think there's something that should be edited?
Just that jigsaw part.
So the dog dropping the bone and the barking, keep it in.
Yeah.
Me trying to find the word jigsaw.
Yeah.
Too much.
You got to take that out.
All right. Well, Shaun, thank you for doing this, and I can't wait to rewatch your special so many times with my family.
Thank you. Yeah. Next Christmas, throw it on. Get the family round.
Get them around the hearth, the Yule log. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Murph.
All right. Bye, Colin.